Aaron Vale had spent years traveling across the galaxy, meeting countless alien species, negotiating trade, and solving disputes that could easily turn violent. Yet, nothing in all those years had prepared him for Lyria. She was a Lyrian diplomat assigned to their colony talks, and from the very first moment, she carried herself with a grace and discipline that seemed almost unreal. Her posture was perfect, her movements deliberate, and her eyes sharp, observing everything without revealing what she was thinking. Humans were familiar with diplomats who smiled and bowed for appearances. Lyrians, Aaron had learned, were different. They had an unshakable pride and a sense of honor that dictated everything they did. They respected skill, intellect, and courage, but emotions were considered distractions, weaknesses to be hidden behind a flawless exterior. Yet Aaron noticed something unusual about Lyria. The first meeting had been strictly formal. Aaron had arrived on the Lyrian flagship, a vast structure of shimmering metal and sleek architecture that seemed alive under the lighting of its interior. Lyria had greeted him with a subtle nod, her eyes scanning him with precision. She spoke softly but clearly, each word measured and intentional. "Captain Vale," she said, "your presence is noted. We expect cooperation, not conflict." Aaron smiled politely, replying, "Of course, Lyria. I hope we can build something that benefits both our people." She regarded him silently for a moment before nodding again. There was no warmth, no expression of friendliness, just the professional mask that Lyrians wore like armor. Aaron felt the challenge immediately. If he wanted to reach her, he would have to work harder than ever before. Over the next several weeks, Aaron observed Lyria closely. He noticed the subtle ways she interacted with her crew. She gave instructions clearly but rarely praised them. She listened, but her focus seemed to remain elsewhere. And yet, in private moments when she thought no one was watching, Aaron sometimes caught glimpses of hesitation, curiosity, even amusement in her expression. It was fleeting, like a ripple across the surface of a still pond, but it told him she was capable of emotions, even if she refused to show them publicly. One evening, after a long day of negotiations, Aaron found himself walking through the Lyrian gardens with her. The gardens were unlike anything on human colonies. Crystalline plants glowed softly in colors that seemed impossible, and the air was fragrant with alien flowers that changed scent depending on the angle of the light. Lyria moved beside him silently, her gaze occasionally following the paths of insects and hovering creatures. Aaron decided to take a small risk. "You know," he said casually, "I've never seen a garden like this. It's beautiful. You must take pride in maintaining it." Lyria tilted her head slightly, her eyes narrowing in thought. "Pride is not given to aesthetics, Captain. It is given to order, to precision, to results." Aaron chuckled. "I suppose humans see beauty differently. We like things that make us feel something." She glanced at him briefly, a faint curiosity flickering in her eyes before her stoic expression returned. "Feeling is secondary," she said. "Results matter more." Aaron noticed the almost imperceptible hesitation in her voice. He decided to try a different approach. "Maybe so. But sometimes, feeling something doesn't stop results. It can make them better, stronger." Lyria paused, considering his words. The air between them was quiet, except for the soft hum of alien life around them. Then, unexpectedly, she asked, "Do humans often allow themselves to feel?" Aaron smiled. "We do. It's part of what makes us human. We get angry, happy, scared. We even fall in love sometimes." Her eyes widened slightly at the word, as if it were foreign to her. Aaron noticed the faintest blush coloring her cheeks. He realized then that she had probably never been told she could be loved, never been offered the simplest form of warmth. I see," she said softly. almost to herself. Then she looked at him, her gaze searching, unguarded for a fleeting moment. "And you allow yourself to love?" Aaron's heart skipped, but he kept his voice calm. "I do. I try to. It's not always easy, but it makes life worth it." There was a moment of silence. The gardens glowed softly around them, alien yet strangely comforting. Aaron could see her struggle internally, balancing the expectations of her people with the strange new concept of emotion he had introduced. Finally, he took a gentle step closer. "Thanks, love," he said, almost as if testing her. Her entire body froze. She blinked at him, unable to process the word. "Love," she whispered, her voice trembling just slightly. It was not mockery nor anger, just surprise. A genuine, raw, unpracticed reaction. Aaron realized that, for the first time, she was facing something entirely new, something no one had ever offered her before. "Yes," he said simply, smiling. "It's what humans call affection, respect, care, feeling someone is special to you." Lyria stared at him for a long moment. Her face was unreadable, yet her eyes betrayed a storm of thoughts, confusion, and curiosity. It was a crack in her armor, and Aaron recognized it immediately. She was not used to being addressed with warmth. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Over the next few days, Aaron continued to find small ways to introduce her to human ways of connecting. He shared stories from his childhood on Earth, tales of clumsy mistakes and moments of bravery, laughter, and heartbreak. He explained humor, a concept utterly foreign to Lyrians, and even made her try to tell a joke herself. She struggled, her voice stiff and precise, but he noticed the glimmer of enjoyment in her eyes. Their interactions grew more personal with time. Aaron would find subtle ways to show care, bringing her preferred beverage during long negotiations, remembering small details she mentioned in passing, or offering help with tasks that were not part of his duty. Lyria, in turn, began to respond, slowly lowering her barriers. She questioned him about human customs, emotions, and relationships, not merely out of curiosity, but with a desire to understand. One evening, they found themselves alone in the observation deck, looking out at the vastness of space. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, planets spinning silently in the void. Aaron spoke quietly, almost reverently. "You know, out here, among all this emptiness, it's easy to feel small. But moments like this, they remind us we're alive, that we matter." Lyria tilted her head, studying him. "Alive. Matter. These are human concepts?" Aaron nodded. "Yes. And they mean a lot. They guide us, motivate us. They give meaning to what we do." For the first time, she did not hide her reaction. Her lips parted slightly, her eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. Aaron could see the wheels turning in her mind, the conflict between her upbringing and the strange new emotions she was experiencing. He knew she was beginning to understand that there could be strength in vulnerability, that emotions did not have to weaken her. They could enhance her. The encounter ended with a quiet understanding, a subtle acknowledgement that something had changed. Aaron had spoken a single word, simple yet powerful, and it had opened a door for Lyria. She would not admit it yet, but she had begun to trust him, to see him not as a negotiator, but as someone who could understand her in ways no one else had. By the end of Part 1, their relationship had evolved from formal, cautious diplomacy to the beginnings of a deeper connection. Lyria remained careful, disciplined, and highly intelligent, but Aaron had planted the seed of something entirely new in her, the understanding that she could experience warmth, care, and affection without abandoning her principles. The first cracks had appeared in her armor, and she had no idea how far they would spread, or what feelings would grow from them. In the quiet of the Lyrian flagship, amid alien lights and gardens that glowed with impossible colors, The first stirrings of something extraordinary had begun, and it had started with the simplest word: love. The days after that quiet moment on the observation deck were different. Lyria moved with the same precision as always, spoke with the same calm authority, and maintained the disciplined facade that defined her. But Aaron noticed subtle changes. Her eyes lingered on him a fraction longer, her responses carried a slight softness, and sometimes, when she thought no one was looking, she smiled. It was fleeting, almost imperceptible, but enough to tell him she was thinking about him in ways she didn't yet understand. Aaron, for his part, continued his gentle efforts. He made no grand gestures, no declarations, just small, deliberate acts of care. Sometimes it was as simple as saving her favorite beverage from the replicator, other times sharing stories of human camaraderie, of friends helping each other in unexpected ways. He didn't push, he simply showed her the human side of connection. And slowly, Lyria began to absorb it. One morning, the colony sent an urgent message. A rogue faction of Lyrians had rebelled, believing humans to be untrustworthy. They were sabotaging supply lines, endangering both species. The news arrived just as Aaron and Lyria were preparing for a formal meeting. The Lyrian Council insisted that Lyria lead the diplomatic effort. She looked at Aaron, her usually controlled demeanor faltering for a fraction of a second. "This is complicated," she admitted quietly. "They will not listen to reason alone." Aaron placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Then we will give them a reason to listen. Together." She hesitated, unsure if trust could be placed in a human in such a critical moment. But there was something in Aaron's calm assurance that made her nod. They would face this crisis together. The first encounter with the rebels was tense. Aaron and Lyria approached cautiously, observing the disarray in the faction's ranks. Lyria spoke first, her voice steady, commanding attention. "We do not wish to harm you," she said. "Our goal is peace and cooperation." The rebels sneered, disbelief in their eyes. Aaron stepped forward. "We can't change the past," he said calmly, "but we can choose the future. Stand with us, and you'll be safer, stronger, and respected by both your people and ours." Lyria watched as the humans and Lyrians began to work together to resolve the standoff. She observed Aaron's actions, how he moved decisively, yet without aggression. He protected lives, negotiated carefully, and never allowed fear or anger to dictate his choices. Slowly, the rebels began to lower their weapons. Lyria realized then that humans could embody a form of strength that complemented Lyrian discipline. Later, as the crisis resolved and the last of the rebels surrendered, Lyria found herself beside Aaron once more. She looked at him, her expression unreadable, but her eyes shone with something new: admiration, gratitude, and perhaps a hint of something deeper. "You risked yourself," she said softly. "For us. For me." Aaron smiled, shrugging lightly. "I didn't think about risk. I just did what needed to be done." Her lips parted slightly, and for the first time she allowed herself a genuine smile. "You are remarkable." Aaron chuckled. "I'm human. That's sort of what we do." They walked in silence for a few moments, watching the colony stabilize after the chaos. The lights of the settlement glowed warmly, a small beacon against the endless darkness of space. Aaron glanced at Lyria. "You know," he said, "you could learn a lot from humans. We make mistakes, sure, but we also learn, adapt, and we care, truly care. That's something your people could benefit from, too." Lyria tilted her head, considering his words. "Perhaps. There is merit in your ways, not just in strategy or diplomacy, but in connection." Aaron nodded. "Exactly. Connection is everything. It can change outcomes, inspire people, and even give courage where none exists." There was a pause, And then Aaron spoke again, his voice softer this time. Lyria, love is more than a word. It's a choice, a bond, a strength. I hope someday you'll see that for yourself. For a long moment, Lyria did not respond. Then she spoke, almost whispering, I think I am beginning to understand. Her gaze met his, and in it was a mixture of awe, curiosity, and something tender she had never allowed herself to feel before. Over the next days, Aaron and Lyria worked closely to repair the damaged relations between humans and Lyrians. The colony had suffered, but the crisis had also forged bonds between the two species. Aaron saw Lyria growing more comfortable with human customs, more willing to laugh at small mistakes, more open in her communication, and in turn, he found himself drawn to her intelligence, her courage, and the way she challenged him to think differently. One evening, after a long day of reconstruction and negotiation, they found themselves in the same observation deck where Aaron had first spoken the word that had changed everything. The stars stretched endlessly before them, distant suns and planets casting soft light into the room. Lyria stood silently, looking out at the cosmos, her posture relaxed for the first time in weeks. Aaron approached, and for the first time he saw her without the protective barrier she had always maintained. You've done remarkably well, he said gently. Not just in diplomacy, but in everything. You've shown courage, wisdom, and heart. Lyria turned to him, her eyes reflecting the light of distant galaxies. Heart, she repeated, as if tasting the word for the first time. Perhaps. Humans are not as fragile as my people believe. Perhaps. There is strength in emotion. Aaron smiled, stepping closer. There is. Strength, courage, even wisdom. And sometimes, love. Her eyes widened slightly and she froze. Then slowly she allowed a small, genuine smile to form. Love, she whispered softly, clearly. She repeated the word as if claiming it for herself. I understand now. Aaron reached out, taking her hand gently in his. The warmth of his touch, the sincerity in his eyes, and the simple acceptance of her feelings broke through the last of her guardedness. Lyria realized that she had been holding herself back, not out of fear, but out of habit, out of the teachings that had never allowed her to experience this kind of connection. I trust you, she said quietly. I choose to trust you. Aaron's smile widened. That's all I could ever ask. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter, as if reflecting the bond that had formed between them. They stood together, hand in hand, a human and a Lyrian, two beings from different worlds who had found understanding, respect, and perhaps something more. In the days that followed, Lyria continued to embrace the new understanding she had gained. She approached her duties with renewed energy, not abandoning her principles, but enhancing them with empathy and connection. She began to encourage cooperation between humans and Lyrians, using the lessons she had learned from Aaron to bridge cultural gaps. Aaron, for his part, continued to support her, offering guidance, laughter, and companionship. Their relationship grew naturally, built on mutual respect and shared experiences. The Lyrian Council took notice of the changes, impressed by the effectiveness of their collaboration and the positive influence it had on the colony. Eventually, the colony stabilized completely. Humans and Lyrians worked together in ways that had seemed impossible before. Aaron and Lyria's partnership became a symbol of unity, showing that even the most disciplined and cautious among the Lyrians could benefit from human warmth and understanding. One quiet evening, as the stars stretched endlessly across the sky, Aaron and Lyria returned to the observation deck. They stood side by side, looking out at the universe, feeling its vastness and possibility. Lyria turned to Aaron, her expression serene and confident. I see now, she said softly. Emotions do not weaken us. They give us strength, courage, purpose." Aaron nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "Exactly. And sometimes they bring people together in ways that nothing else can." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting both gratitude and affection. "Thank you for showing me this, for trusting me, for love." Aaron smiled, leaning slightly closer. "Always." The two of them stood there hand in hand, the universe around them vast and full of possibilities. They were different species, from different worlds, yet in that moment they had found something universal: understanding, respect, and a bond that neither time nor distance could break. The simple word that had once made her freeze had become a bridge between two hearts, a promise of trust, and the beginning of a journey neither of them could have anticipated. As the stars twinkled outside, Lyria finally allowed herself to feel fully, without fear, without restraint. And Aaron, for the first time in years, saw that the universe was not just a place of duty and mission, but a place where hearts could meet, connect, and grow stronger together. In the silence of the observation deck, with the galaxy stretching endlessly beyond, they stood together. Two beings from different worlds, yet united by a bond that transcended duty, species, and expectation. Love, trust, and understanding had woven between them, and nothing would ever be the same again.